All right, thanks for continuing with me or jumping from part one to this one if you already know all about cognitive functions and how they relate to the MBTI model. All right, so in the case of INFJ, we have, as with all the types, we have a judging or decision-making function in the upper two, in the second position for INFJ, and that is an extroverted function, extroverted feeling. Then and the topmost function, the dominant function for INFJ is introverted intuition. So what a lot of people seem to be doing and would like to do is they would have a tendency to think to themselves, well, the dominant function is the one that exerts the most influence on the personality's thinking. So I should really focus on that one. But here's the thing with in the case of INFJ, in the case of introverted intuition running the show, and this is also the case for INTJ, that is a notoriously difficult, exceptionally difficult function to try and grasp and understand, even in the abstract, and to examine the workings of one's own mind and to check for that one. I don't think that's going to be such an easy thing for a lot of people, and clearly it isn't, because, for example, even people who do identify very clearly with INFJ, and they feel really confident in that's the type that fits them the best, and they identify with a lot of the characteristics associated with that. Stories are legion among them for when asked, about everyday sort of expressions of their dominant function. Very often, it's the case that the fruits of NI are arrived at, are produced in a way that are extremely ways that are extremely mysterious, even to the person who has this as their dominant cognitive function. So I think if you start your investigation with, okay, where's the NI, and then how much of their, and what is the nature of it, and then am I using that importantly in my thinking? Am I using it often? Is it weighing in heavily? And then, trying to assess the degree to which it's influencing things. While I do think that is a totally worthwhile endeavor for, coming at it from many different approaches, I think that for the purpose of typing, what would make more sense to do if you want to get to a destination, that's the point, you want to find your best fit type. If you're wondering if you could be INFJ, and it does seem very clear that you're one of the four IN types. So you're some kind of weirdo in your head, if not if it's not obvious on the outside as well. You're not, you're aware that you have an unusual way of looking at things compared to a lot of stuff in the mainstream, and you have a facility and a sort of leaning to seeing patterns, to looking to the future, to forecasting, et cetera, things associated with that, the N preference in the MBTI system. And you know that the primary way that you regenerate your own energy is by spending time alone, by staying away from social interaction with others. Then what I suggest you do if you think INFJ is the real contender is look at the extroverted of the top two most influential functions. In INFJ's case, that is the feeling function, extroverted feeling. Because it's extroverted in its attitude, that cognitive function of the top two is going to be the one that, in a much more straightforward way than NI, is going to be seeking to create effects in the external objective world. That's what all the extroverted functions do. If they're perceiving extroverted functions, then they're seeking to perceive results in the external objective world. And if they are judging decision-making functions, then they are seeking to create effects primarily in the outside world. So here's the thing. If you do not have a very strong mental leaning that should be quite apparent, I think, towards the preoccupations of extroverted feeling, you can rule INFJ right out, right away. with utter certainty, because there is no way you can be an INFJ if you don't find FE to be a very strong sort of collection of mental patterns that are very characteristic of what you naturally pay attention to and what you feel the urge to enact in the social world. So, so what does it look like, FE then? Some of the FE is a lot of things, and I'm just going to try and keep it shorter. I'll just say that FE is very heavily concerned. First of all, is very, very aware of the unspoken social contracts in society. Is very, very naturally thinks of how their actions are going to affect other people, are very, very naturally concerned and expend a lot of mental energy naturally, rather effortlessly. It's in their nature, you could say, even, to pay a lot of attention to what's going on in interpersonal dynamics and the groups that they're a part of. And those people feel an urge naturally, often, and to a really marked degree, to promote, to create, and to maintain harmonious interactions within the social world as they're interacting with it. And that is very much, not exclusively, but very often, as is the case with all the cognitive functions with an extroverted attitude, it seeks to create these effects more or less in the here and now. So it has a more sort of short-term focus for its action. Usually, again, these are obviously broad generalizations. So, but compared to the introverted cognitive functions, that you could say that comparatively, they seek to get things done in the external objective world. So, if you're thinking you might be INFJ, or you're not, you think you are, but you're not quite sure, I'd suggest. Look at everything, of course. It's all very interesting. It's all worthwhile to look at. But if you want to narrow things down, look for evidence of cognition that has to do with extroverted feeling. And here's another thing too. I'll get into the specifics as sort of go through the different of the four types. What other fine points about eliminating or including, seeing whether testing whether FE is there in any great prominence. But one thing that's also usually a real feature of people who have that cognitive function, either in the auxiliary position, that would be ISFJ or INFJ, or in the dominant position of the cognitive function stack, that's ESFJ or ENFJ. Those people will quite naturally not only be attuned and not only be aware of what's going on very keenly in these sort of social dynamics they're part of, but they will they will have the urge to quite often take important things that are important to them, perhaps opinions they hold or preferences they have for how to go about things, much more than is the case for people with introverted feeling high up in the cognitive function stack, or for any of the types that have the feeling judging function low down in the stack, in the third or fourth position. People with it in the upper part are going to find it relatively easy to sometimes take, and probably often, to take certain things that they find important about, for themselves, and to give those things the backseat, in order to exercise another very important part of themselves, which is their FE-related part. And that is the part that has a real drive for promoting harmony. So these people are really willing, more so than the other types, the other 12 types in the MBTI. They are usually much more willing, and then by extension through practice, if this cognitive function has been encouraged to flourish by their life circumstances and their own efforts and so on, and to develop into maturity, then there will also be ability that will go with that as well, with the exercise of FE. And those people will find it relatively easy to put what other people want in the moment ahead of what they want in the moment, or at least the desires of others, whatever's going to make everything run smoothly and everybody feel good in the group that they're part of, they're going to be really kind of drawn to doing what it takes. To a certain extent, of course, everybody has their limits, but they're going to want to sort of recess certain things, certain desires they may have, or preferences they may have, or opinions they may have, and kind of just put those a little bit to the side in favor of doing something that will contribute more to harmony in the group they're a part of. So that's those are the most, again, there's more to it. There's definitely more to it. But those are the broad strokes of what FE is about. All right, so in the next part, the last part, I'm going to look at all four of the specific ion types and see and talk about some real life experience where I've been able to use this so-called what I've been referring to just as the FE test for INFJ, and see how that's played out and what that can look like in more detail. Thanks for staying with me this far.